Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You're now tuned into the one and only B-Rad Show, and I'm your host, the M to the J to the. You already know how it goes. So today's topic, we're going to be going and continuing on to the Scream saga, and we're going to be discussing a little bit further on along in the Scream saga. This topic, as you can tell from the title, we're going to be talking about pretty much revolving around what main characters will be dying in the Scream reboot. Which characters will die? Will it be Neve Campbell? Will it be Mrs. Courtney Cox, or will it be Mr. David Arquette? Now, before we go into that, I'm going to be just discussing a few couple of quick topics that I started on in another episode, in my previous episode. If you guys know and you checked out that episode, then you guys should already know where I'm going to go with the beginning of this segment. So we're going to be talking about or discussing about furthering on, continuing about the Stu Return to the Scream franchise. This is going to be the first topic I'm going to talk about. And what I want to start off first by saying is, I wanted a lot of you guys were amazing. You pretty much were going at it in the comments. You guys, I liked it all, the support. You guys, I see it was a lot of different opinions and points of views. Some things everyone agreed with, but then there were some things that people disagreed with on particular questions that I asked in the previous segment. So I'm going to continue on with that. So about Stu returning to the Scream franchise. Now, if you guys watched the previous episode, if you haven't, you're more than welcome to check that episode out if you finished previewing this one. Now, I talked about it would be a good idea. I think it would be amazing and a good idea if the Scream franchise would cast Matthew Lillard back into the Scream sequel. I think it would be a good idea. Now, I know a lot of people would say, some people believe that Stu was dead, and then some believe that Stu was not dead. Okay, so like I said, in the comments, the good comments and feedback that I got, there was some mixture of different points of views. And there were some that were like, Stu was dead, and some were like, yes, I can see that. That would be amazing. Stu was still alive. Now, as I told you guys, when we're pertaining to books, and we're talking about film and movies and stories, sometimes the people, us as the people, we tend to take ladies and gentlemen, we tend to take the stories or misinterpret something about the story, especially when some things are left out about a story or a plot. We tend to get confused, and we tend to just make a certain perception when actually that's not the fact. Now, as I stated in my previous episode, I don't believe that Stu is dead. In Scream 1, it never gave us a concrete evidence that proved that Stu was dead. So if I were to say that is Stu still alive, I would say he's still alive. I think it would be perfect and great for the Scream franchise to cast Matthew Lillard back into this sequel. I think it would be perfect since we haven't seen him from part 1, and there was no evidence that proved that he actually died. Now, there are multiple ways how you can cast him. I feel like I said, you can cast him as far as maybe he aids a little bit. He aids the main characters a little bit, and we're talking about Sidney Prescott, Deputy Dewey, and Gail Weathers. He can aid them a little bit, and maybe they go seek him out. Maybe he's still locked in prison, or maybe he's gotten out of prison, and maybe he's just somewhere off, somewhere just alone, where no one, all by himself. Okay, and maybe they seek him out. They have to go through certain individuals to find out where is he residing, and they find him, and then they go in, talk to him, ask some questions, and maybe they find out some information. And in that process of finding out some information, in order for maybe possibly help them to figure out the new suspects or the new villains, if they choose to go that route with casting new villains, maybe we get a good backstory of Stu, the person and the character of Stu, because as I told you guys in the previous episode, when I mentioned about Stu coming back and returning to the Scream sequel, I think it would be an amazing job, and I think it would be excellent. It'd go out with a banger. Is because the fact that we know, for all of us that grew up all of us that grew up off of the first Scream and then all the rest of the films, but we know from the original film, they didn't give us an actual backstory or any type of background of Stu. So when we ask the question, who is Stu? What do we know of Stu? We don't know really too much or anything about Stu, ladies and gentlemen. So I think it will be perfect, and I think it will be a good idea, and I really think the franchise should really cast Stu into this sequel. It would be amazing. It would make the film even more amazing. Now, as I said, us coming to find out some things about Stu and some things being uncovered and being revealed, we come to learn why Stu became the way he was, why he became a villain actually in the first place from the first film. what led up to that? Did he have a rough childhood? Did he have a bad relationship with his parents? Was there some type of abuse, whether it was physical or verbal? Did he have a rough childhood when we're talking about like his peers growing up in school? Was he bullied as a young kid? All things. Did he have any mental issues or physical issues or things that made him and draw him up to become a villain in the Scream 1? We don't know anything about that. And I think it would be really best and important for the Scream franchise, for this sequel, to incorporate that into this film. Now, I know a lot of you guys were in the comments that were commenting saying, Vice, it was back and forth. Some were saying, well, how can he come back when he's dead? And then a couple are saying, well, no, he's not dead. You're right, MJ. We never actually got to see, and there was no proof that proved that Stu was dead. And this is what I'm telling you guys. There's no proof that Stu was dead. And I think this would be it would be perfect. Because it would be so amazing. But like I said, it would also give a great background story to Stu and give us some kind of concrete story or detail behind Stu's character and what drawed him and led him to become right side by side of Billy as becoming the backup villain. I think it would be important. So I'm curious to know once again what you guys think. You guys, like I said, you guys are more than welcome to spam the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think it would be a good idea to recast Matthew Lillard into this Scream sequel? For those of you guys that do not believe that Stu is still alive and that he died in Scream 1, then of course, you know, that would be unimportant to you guys. But as I said, Stu's is still alive. They never proved to us that Stu was dead. It's just right there. Now, the other part I talked about, you guys, is about also they can cast him in and bring him in as maybe the main villain, okay? Maybe some loose ends get tied up. You know, there was a little tension. If you guys noticed, for all of you guys that were actual real Scream fans and grew up with the Scream franchise, you know that there was some type of little tension or some type of little situation between him and Sidney Prescott. There was something there, and if you look at Matthew Lillard's character, when you can tell throughout Scream 1, throughout the different scenes, throughout the film, throughout the first film, there was some type of link or something there, some type of connection or link, and I think that could be perfect for this Scream sequel. So this can be, you know, it can give a more involvement, but it also can give us a trace back to the original film. I think it would be a good idea, but like I said, I don't know if the franchise is going to go that way. I think they're probably going to go with the way of casting new cast as villains in maybe some way. But as I said, if they do that, it has to some kind of way connect to some of the previous Scream films, maybe Scream 2 or Scream 3. I think that would be their best bet for the villains to have some type of connection, whether it's both or one of them have a connection to some character in Scream 2 and Scream 3. I think it just would be amazing. Okay, so now that we talked about that and discussed about Stu and my views of why I think that Stu is still alive, whether some of you believe it or not, and I think it would be a good idea to cast him into the film, now we're going to get on to the major topic at hand, and that's about who will die, okay? Who is going to die? Out of the main characters, out of Sidney Prescott, out of Deputy Dewey, and out of Mrs. Reporter Gail Weathers, who is going to die? Now, when I first found out about this new film being released, ladies and gentlemen, I was thrilled and I was happy. But I did my research and I wanted to see what was going to be some of the structure of it. But when I found out that the original cast, all three of them were going to be the ones that survived, were going to be recasted into the sequel, I knew something hit me and it kept circulating in my head. I knew that someone is going to have to die. Someone is going to have to die, regardless. Someone, or maybe more than one, is going to have to die. And I know there's a lot of gossip and rumors where some people say that Deputy Dewey is going to die, that David Arquette is going to die because of the fact that he's the fan favorite of the film, of the franchise. But sorry, ladies and gentlemen, excuse me. But there's also some that's circulating rumors about Gail Weathers, and there's also some speculations about Neve Campbell being killed off. Now, let me be very clear, and let me be very vividly, and let me be very blunt. Regardless of what you guys think, if there is one character, if there is one only one character that is going to be picked off in this Scream sequel. I'm thinking it's going to be Gale Weathers. Yes, Mrs. Courtney Cox, a banger. She's a banger. She was dominant in the Friends franchise. Okay. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, pardon me. But anyways, I think it's going to be Gale Weathers. I definitely think it's going to be Gale Weathers. I think the reason why I say that, I know a lot of people think it's going to be Deputy Dewey because he's a fan favorite. And we know when we're talking about thrillers, horrors, and suspense films, we know that the fan favorite is 9 times out of 10 more likely to be picked off. History repeats itself, but I don't think in this case. And the reason why I say this is because I think that Mr. David Arquette is more relevant and of more importance to the Scream franchise than Mrs. Courtney Cox playing the role of Gale Weathers. Once again, I think that Mr. David Arquette is more significant and more relevant to the Scream franchise and more important to the franchise compared to Mrs. Courtney Cox. If you look at the roles of the characters, you can see how Deputy Dewey's role compared to Gale Weathers' role was way more important. And just to top it off even more, because he's the fan favorite and because his role is so significant, I think that if it's only one person going to be picked off, it's not going to be him. I think it's not going to be Deputy Dewey. I think it's going to be Mrs. Gale Weathers. If I had to make the choice and the decision, I want you guys to spam in the comments and let me know what you guys think. Who do you think is going to be picked off? Is it going to be Deputy Dewey? Is it going to be Mrs. Gale Weathers? Or is it going to be Mrs. Sidney Prescott? Let me know what you guys think. But I think personally it's going to be Mrs. Gale Weathers. However, if it's going to be more than one person picked off in this Scream sequel, I think that it's going to be Sidney Prescott and Gale Weathers. I still believe, I'm not changing my decision about Deputy Dewey. I still think that even if more than one person get picked off, I think that David Arquette will be the lonely survivor. I think that Courtney Cox and Neve Campbell will get picked off if it's going to be more than one. But if it's going to be only one, I think it's going to be Courtney Cox playing the character of Gale Weathers. But if it's going to be multiple, I think it's going to be Neve Campbell as well. And because when these thoughts were circling late in my head when I first found out about this film, and I realized that, and I found out that Neve Campbell, David Arquette, and Courtney Cox, all of them are bangers, may I add, they all are going to be recasted in this film. I had them thoughts like, okay, damn, is it time? Is it time for Mrs. Neve Campbell to be picked off? Is it time? Now, it's a very good chance that Mrs. Neve Campbell can be picked off. She can be picked off. If it's going to be more than one, though. But I think if it's going to be only one, I think it's going to be Gale Weathers. And I think that the franchise can end with David Arquette and Neve Campbell being the survivors and the story ending there. Now, this would leads me to the final segment of the show. And I'm going to be talking about the new casting, about the Scream franchise deciding to cast all new members. Now, this is very important and it's very vital. It's very important and it's very vital because the decision that the franchise chooses to go with this sequel is going to tell us, and it's going to reveal what this franchise is going to be maybe 20 years from now, or even 15 years from now, or even 10 years from now. If the franchise chooses to pick off Neve Campbell, but continue on the character role of Sidney Prescott, I think this is going to be a bad idea. Because there's some gossip out there and there's some rumors out there, and I think that this is what the franchise is going to probably try and attempt to do in the Scream sequel. They're going to pick off Neve Campbell, but try in some kind of way, try to bring on a new actress to play Sidney Prescott. I want to be very clear and I want to be very vividly, once again, and very blunt. I think this is a bad idea. It's a bad idea. If you are going to pick off Mrs. Neve Campbell, it makes no sense whatsoever to bring in a new cast member, a new actress to play the role of Sidney Prescott. It makes no sense whatsoever. It makes no sense. And I totally disagree with that, and I know a lot of you guys probably agree with me. So I want you guys to spam in the comments once again. Let me know what your opinions about this. Do you think that the Scream franchise should pick off, after they pick off, if they decide to go the route of picking off Neve Campbell, do you think that they should go about the decision of casting a new actress as Sidney Prescott? Or do you think they should just end the Sidney Prescott character? It makes logical sense. However, though, I do have something else to say about this new cast. Also piggybacking on what I just spoke about a few seconds ago. If this is the route that the Scream franchise is choosing to go by casting a new cast and trying to continue the franchise, make more films, but revolving around a new cast, I think this is a totally bad idea. I think it's a bad idea, and I think that it will tarnish this franchise. I think that it's best if this franchise decides to end this saga, end this franchise, end the Scream franchise with this last film, with this sequel, and go out with a banger and just put the nail in the coffin. I think that's the best bet. I do not agree with the Scream franchise if they're going to try and to continue on with this franchise without the key characters, most important characters. So this is my favorite part of the segment. I got some questions and I need some answers. What is the logical explanation to why the Scream franchise would think that that would be a good idea to continue on with the saga without Neve Campbell in the franchise? Because we all know that Neve Campbell is the most important significance and relevance of the Scream franchise. And she is the stepping stone to the Scream franchise. So it would make no sense whatsoever for the franchise to try to continue this saga on without the key character Neve Campbell, or any of the other. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, let me slow it down. Or any of the other co-hosts. It would make no sense. I think it would be a mockery. I think it would be a slap in the face to the Scream franchise. Let me know what you guys think. Tear it up in the comments. I just think it would be a mistake. I think it would be a bad idea. I'm curious to know what you guys think. Do you guys think that it's a good idea for the Scream franchise to continue this saga with a new cast? Or do you think that the Scream franchise should end the the Scream saga with this last film and go out with a banger? If they're not going to end the saga with this last film, with this film that they're coming out with, then don't pick off Neve Campbell. You cannot pick off Neve Campbell. Don't do it. Don't do it. Even if you decide to pick off Neve Campbell and kept Dewey alive, and say for some strange miraculous reason you kept Gail Weathers alive too, and then you still had the new cast revolving, and then maybe in the following film after this one, if they choose to go that route, they maybe kind of try to where they have it where Deputy Dewey and Gail Weathers kind of assist the next following movie kind of assist to where it could, so it leads us up to expectations and the belief that the franchise is continuing on without Neve Campbell. I think that would be a bad idea. I really personally think they should end this franchise. End it. There's no point whatsoever in continuing on with this franchise. Just end it here. Wrap it up. But if you're going to do this and wrap it up, you better make sure you go with a banger. So all these things that I discussed in this episode and the previous episode pertaining to Matthew Lillard as the role character of Stu, I think it will be a good idea. I think it will be a very, very good idea, and would be the best option is to cast Matthew Lillard in this film and give us some type of backstory of Stu, because we know nothing of Stu. All we know is he was the second villain in the original Don Dada, the original film. In the original film, he was one of the original Don Dadas. That's all we know. But we don't know anything about Stu. We don't know anything, any backstory of Stu. So I think that would be a good idea for them to incorporate Matthew Lillard into this sequel, so that way some things can be wrapped up, and so that way we can be informed of things that we did not know, the things that we were kept in the dark about when it pertains to the character Stu. Before I wrap this up, I also think it would be a good idea since that Randy is dead, because I know there's a little gossip going around where people are thinking that Randy will come back and Randy will be casted back into this sequel, which I do not see that happen. I want to be very clear, vivid, and blunt. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Randy is dead. It is undisputable, non-refutable that Randy is dead. If they were to bring Randy back, they would have to explain this to us like we're 5-year-olds. They would literally have to explain this to us like we're 5-year-olds. Because it was definite, it was concrete that Randy was dead. Now, the only way I could see possibly that would actually even make this film even more better, going out with a banger, going out at the end, going out with the last film, would make it more, if they did do that and decided to cast Randy back, the character Randy back into the film, into the sequel, what will be a good twist is if at the end of the film, that when the villains are revealed, that we come to find out that Randy is one of the villains in the sequel. But if they did that, they would have to explain this once again to us like we are 5-year-olds, explain what led up to Randy becoming one of the villains in this sequel, okay? Because we know that Randy was one of the good guys, and Randy was a major reason and importance of this franchise. He was very important. He played a very significant role in this franchise. So they would have to explain this to us. But if they go that route, they would have to give us some type of way to understand how he became a villain, turned out to be one of the villains in the sequel. And then, like I said, as far as explaining how is he still alive, they would have to explain this to us like that we're 5-year-olds. And the only thing I could think of possibly, if they try to go the route of saying, okay, well, hey, he never was killed in Scream 2. He actually faked his death and staged it and made it seem like he was killed, but he was never killed. He just staged it like that. And they assumed he was dead, but I just honestly don't think that, because if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. I want y'all to spam in the comments once again, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that they had a funeral for Randy with his body. So that's what leads me to believe that Randy is dead, and I don't see that possibility of Randy being casted back in this. As I told you guys, they would have to come out really out the box. That Jack in the Box, they would have to come out the box and explain this to us, like I said, as we're 5-year-olds, because it would make no sense. Okay, so I don't see that happening. So I'm sorry for all you guys that think that Randy is going to be casted in this film. He's going to reappear in the sequel. I don't see that happening. However, I do think it would be a good idea to cast Randy's sister, the actress that played Randy's sister. I think it would be a good idea to recast her in this film as well. Bring her back into the sequel as well. I think it would be good, because it would give us a little bit of that Randy vibe. Just because of the fact that we know, for the true diehard Scream fans that grew up on the Scream franchise, we know who Randy's sister is. We recognize her. So to bring her back and have her playing a role is helping out and aiding the 3 main characters, Sidney Prescott, Deputy Dewey, and reporter Gail Weathers. I think that would be an amazing job. But don't do it like y'all did in, what was it, Scream 3? Correct me if I'm wrong, but when y'all brung her to Scream 3, she only had like a little small airtime. She didn't really even have no major role. Don't do that. Give her a nice time. Give her some nice airtime. Put her throughout multiple scenes throughout the sequel, helping and assisting the 3 main characters. I'm curious to know what you guys think. That's all I have for you guys. That was the main things I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to go ahead and piggyback on as far as my personal reason, the reasons why I think that Stu should be brought back into the sequel. I think because there's a lot of things that we do not know and we are unaware of with Stu, so I think it would be a good idea to bring him back. Whether you decide to bring him back as the main villain or bring him back as someone where the 3 main characters go and seek out some information from, and we come to discover the backstory, come to discover a lot of things about Stu, what led him up to become a villain. I also think it would be a good idea for them to bring Randy's sister back in the sequel as well and give us a little bit of that Randy vibe. But the main thing, if we're talking about people being picked off, I think personally it's going to be Gail Weathers if it's going to be one. I think Courtney Cox is going to get killed off. But if they're going to go with multiple, I think that Neve Campbell is going to get picked off as well. And they're going to try to go the route it could probably make for some miraculous reason, which I don't understand, of continuing on with this franchise. with a new cast. And I think with the character Sidney Prescott still being alive too, and that makes totally no sense whatsoever. It makes no sense. It really makes no sense. Because we know when we think of Sidney Prescott, we think of what comes to mind without even a thought is Neve Campbell. So I think it would be a bad idea. And finally, in closing out with this and wrapping the show up, wrapping this segment up, do I think it is a good idea or a bad idea for the franchise to continue on with this saga without the main characters, especially Mrs. Neve Campbell, and go on with the new cast? I think it is a bad idea personally. I think they should end this franchise with this sequel. I think they should wrap it up. Make sure you incorporate everything, any loose ties that revolved around Sidney Prescott, any loose ties that revolved around Deputy Dewey, any loose ties that revolved around Gail Weathers, any loose ties that revolved around Stu. I think they should just close it and wrap it all up. So that's all I have for you guys. I want to thank you guys once again for the tuning into the show. Appreciate all you guys' love and support. Don't forget, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification button so you'll always be up to date when I drop new broadcasts. So until next time, y'all already know what it is. The M to the J to the U. Peace.